Hello everyone. In earlier video, you've seen how to create a Spring Boot basic application and how to integrate with MongoDB and then do the code operations and everything, get save and update and everything we have seen in the earlier video. So in this video, as I stated before, I'll just show you how to handle the exception. So in Spring Boot, it comes with by default some of the annotations where we can use those annotations and handle your exception with along with the custom exception where we want to write your own error messages, your own exception messages and other things, all the what you want to return back to the UI and everything. So I'll just quickly recap you what we did in the last video. Like you can see the our user IMPL where you are able to see the create user and everything. I'll just show you through the Swagger so that you seen in the last video like how you want to create user, update user and fetch a user and everything. So you can see that I'll just show you that we're able to fetch all the users what we already have it. So now we'll try to go through how to handle those exceptions. So for example, I'll just show you while creating an user, if a user already is exist, so you need to throw the exception like user is already exist. So how do you make sure that you are throwing a proper error message back to the user so that user understands it properly? For example, say that like I'm already throwing it like user already exists exception with the email ID and other things. I'll explain you how I've done that. And also there is a bad request. It's just a response entity I'm showing. It's not really an exception. I'm just throwing it a response entity as a bad request. And one more thing, like if you want to find a user by email ID, we did in the last video. So if a user is not available, then we'll show the record not found exception saying with this email ID is with the user is not available in our database or not available in our record. So for that, I'll just explain you what all the different entities and we already created here. So I created a one exception here package. In that I have already defined all those basic exceptions and how it is. So before I get into that, I'll just explain what is my global exception is looks like. Okay, so global exception handler is I annotated with the controller device. It comes with Spring Boot so that instead of you defining a different classes for everything and other things, what you can do is like you can bring all your exception handler into a single global class and use from there to throw that exception back to the user. So if you see, I created a one exception where it will tell you that record not found exception. It internally again takes a record not found exception class where I did like it extends runtime exception. I just throwing back that a message back to the user and record not found exception and annotating with the not found. That is a 404 error message or HTTP status code which are standing. That is a generic one which I am creating. The same way, what I did, user is already exist exception. So I created a one more exception class for that. So you can see user is already exists. Again, I'm throwing back that and I'm saying that HTTP status code is conflict. So you can throw whatever you want as suitable for your error codes. Okay, that. And if you see, there is a one more exception class. I'm just trying to throw see here or show here three different types of exception, custom exception, which I'm implemented here. So one more generic exception which I'm doing. Apart from these two, if any exception occurs, this will fall into a internal server error exception where what I'm doing is like where I'm getting more information in the exception. So I created a custom clause called API exception where I'm telling that we need to find out what is status message, debug message, and errors. And I'm manually creating this exception message or a class where I want all this information to be thrown back to the user or handled or captured back, like also local DNS uh, uh, timestamp and pattern. I'm using it for the time format and everything. So I'll be logging it in the future. If you want to log any this all thing into database for reporting purpose, anything you can use. So this is more or less you can see how I want to define an exception. So generic exception, so which will definitely have a status code, error message, debug message, error message, whatever you want to add it, you can add it while throwing that exception back. So I'm just creating those different statuses. You can see one is unexpected error, second one is I just throwing that back. So these are the simple messages. You can have it only status code and message. You can have it only status code. So it's upon you how you want to implement it here. So you can see it is just an three different type. I'm telling like one is resource not found, one is user is already exists, like object is exist, that is a conflict, and then only the internal server as message. So let me go to the user service IMPL and see how it works. So now I'll do that I'll try to see how it works when I try to search for an email ID which is not exist, or a user which is not exist, based on the email ID and what it shows through the Swagger. So what I will do, that there's an email ID which is already exist here by this now. What we will do is like, I'll just go to this and fetch by email ID is there. Okay, so what I'll do, I'm just using that email ID. I guess it's John. I'll try to execute it. So see now, that email ID is not exist here. So user with the email ID John is not found here because there is no user ID exist with that. Uh, uh, that's how it works, because I given it clearly say that resource not found, and it shows that user with email ID not found. So this is how it works, and you can create a number of custom exception what you want. And let me test with other one as well, like user already exist exception in the create method. Before that, we will try to find out what all the users are exist. See now we have some of the users here. I'll just copy this payload for a testing purpose, where you can see easily we can test that. So I'll go to user, I'll try it out. Okay, so I'm copying the payload already exists because we want to show that what it is returning back. So what I'll do, I'll try to execute this. See now, user with email ID Mac is already exist because I just copied the same already existing data. You can see this because of the based of the email ID we are checking. So it is already exist. So what I did is here, I just went and get by user ID. I have created a method through the repository and just trying to show that. So when you creating this user ID with message, it will go to user ID already exist exception. It will pass this message as a super when we have a generic global exception handler. So it will take it here, it will come back here, the response entity is here. So you can see this is the user ID get message. So get message is nothing but what you added here as a user ID with email already exists. So this is how this is a very basic simple example but very effective way of handling your exceptions. You can create whatever the exception or error message if you want as per your custom. This is the basic one. I try to show three different error formats and three different exceptions, and with a uh, return types of the error HTTP messages, status codes. So uh, in the next video, I'll come up with the next version of this extension of this series and all the records and other things how it is. So thanks a lot for now.